While owning a home in Germany is great, less than half of the population own homes, with about 52% of the population opting for rental accommodation. So let's talk about renting in Germany. Finding an apartment in Germany, honestly, is like finding a job. It's like finding a job. It's crazy, really. And before I even continue with the renting and all of that in Germany, many people in Germany are now beginning to opt for other forms of accommodation, like houseboats or minivans. That's moving moving houses. And you have people living in just really tiny accommodations and all, which are called Kleinhäuser and all of that. So with the rise in the whole talk of sustainability and minimal living and all of that, people are now beginning to drift slowly towards that kind of accommodation. But that doesn't take away the regular style of renting apartments and all of that. So let's go now to finding apartments, renting in Germany. Like I said earlier, renting in Germany is not a walk in the park. It's difficult, it's stressful. It's like looking for a job, honestly, and it can be really, really frustrating. So where do you find apartments, first of all? Now you can search for apartments online, of course, even though you can ask from people, and you can search through agents and all of that. But the biggest way, the most common way people find apartments in Germany is online. So you can search, for example, in Immowelt or Immobilienscout24.de. These are the biggest platforms for searching for apartments in Germany. People also find apartments on eBay Kleinanzeigen and Facebook Marketplace as well. But I'll say that when searching for apartments in Germany, for be careful and look out for housing scam, because housing scam is a big thing here in Germany. I tell you, it's real. People just scam people of their money, promising them apartments, and they don't show up with it. So this is me saying, if it looks too good to be true, it's probably not. So do your homework. Don't pay anybody any money if you haven't seen any apartment. So usually these housing scams, they won't show you the apartment. They'll give you one lousy reason why they can't show you the apartment. Probably they're in one country, something, and they won't be able to send you the apartment. But I should send the caution fee as a deposit, so that the apartment can be kept for you, and all of that. And so many people are falling victim to that. They pay this money and they can't even contact these people anymore, and that money is gone. So please, guys, let's be careful. Make sure that you go to see the apartment yourself, and all of that. If it is too good to be true, it is most likely not true. Be careful, guys. Now, when looking for an apartment, you should be looking out for a few things. For example, does it come with a kitchen? What are the amenities does it have? Does it have a balcony? Does it have a cellar, that's the basement for storage? Does it have, all of that? Be sure that you have looked out for all of these things when searching for your apartment. The kitchen especially, because the kitchen is a big expense in the apartment. If your apartment doesn't come with a kitchen, you would have to buy a kitchen. Now, buying a kitchen in Germany is not cheap. So look out for these things. You might want to weigh the pros and cons of renting an apartment without a kitchen or renting one with a kitchen. Now, generally, the one with a kitchen will be a bit more expensive than the one without a kitchen. But I would say in the beginning, the immediate time, it's easier to just rent an apartment that already comes with its own kitchen, so you don't have to go through the hassle of buying a kitchen. We're renting an apartment here without a kitchen, and I tell you, it's not even funny. It was really annoying for us to now buy our own kitchen, because getting your own kitchen, like a very simple, small kitchen, like very, very simple, basic kitchen, can cost you up to 3,000 euros to get. So you need to consider all of this when you are getting your apartment. Now, all these extra tiny little bitty things that you need to look out for, which will be based on your personal taste, of course. Now, when you find an apartment that you like, you have to contact whoever is listing this apartment to be able to book an appointment for a viewing. Now, it's possible that you might need to book an appointment for the viewing before applying, or you need to apply before you view. But contact them and tell them that you're interested in the apartment, so that they can make an appointment for you to view. That you have contacted these people for the apartment doesn't mean that you'll be granted a viewing. It doesn't mean that you will be given the opportunity to even apply for the apartment. It is a tough it's a tough front. Apartment search is not easy. Like, so many people are looking for apartments at the same time, and the competition is really, really fierce. Now, when you eventually do get a viewing appointment, you have to go view the apartment. Now, this viewing, what it means is you are coming to see the apartment to be sure that it's your liking. Usually, you wouldn't be there alone, at least most cities. Maybe in smaller cities, probably there are not so many people looking for the apartment. Then maybe it's possible that you might be alone. I've seen some buildings or some apartments where I was the only person who came to see the apartment at the time, even though I didn't eventually take it. But most other apartments, you would have so many people. In most cities, there will be so many people seeing the apartment at the same time. You probably might be as many as 50 people. So it's not just you. Now, when you make this, when you see the apartment, if you like it, then you will apply for the apartment. Remember, it is first come, first serve. As quickly as possible, you need to apply quickly, because the landlord would then look at these applications and then decide on who he or she wants to give the apartment to. So people come there not just to see the apartment, but to also show the landlord that, look, I'm up to par, like I can deliver on this. So people come there to show off. Some people will come with cars. Some people will come, looking pen, looking all of that, so that they can let the person know that, look, I can afford this apartment. I can afford to live here beyond just the basic requirements of the rent and all. I can afford to live here. I deserve to live here. It's a competition, like I told you. Now, when you are done with that application and the landlord decides who they want to give the apartment to, you'll be needing some documents for this application. The documents you'll be needing generally would be your identification document, which in this case, as an international, as a foreigner, as an expat, they'll be needing your passport. Some people will need your residence permit to be sure that you are even allowed to live here in the first place. But if you're a student who just moved who just came into the country, you don't have your permit yet. For students, is a little bit more lenient. But if you're not a student, you'll be needing to deliver on all of this. You'll also be needing to show your proof of being able to pay for the apartment. So, which means that you're going to be giving them your work contract. These guys would ask you for everything: your mother's head, your father's leg, and everything. I'm telling you, questions that your employer cannot even ask you. Your landlord is going to ask you. They are going to be asking you if do you plan on having kids? Some landlords don't want to have children in their building. So they're allowed to ask you as many questions as they want to ask you. How many are you guys going to be in the apartment? Do you have children? Do you have pets? They will let you know if pets are not allowed in the apartment or pets are allowed in the apartment, and all of that. And they have a right to that. Do you smoke? Do you all those kind of things? They want to be sure that who they're giving the apartment to will not turn the apartment into something else. Why some people don't want kids in their apartment? Kids can be really destructive when they play around and everything. It's not their fault, it's just a hyperactivity and all. But some people don't want kids scratching stuff, ruining things in their apartment beyond what is absolutely necessary. So if they don't want that, well, what can you do? These are some of the things that might disqualify you from getting the house. Well, some apartments would, of course, let you know you can do this, you can take this, you can do that, and all. Another thing that you need to provide them is proof from your previous landlord that you are a good tenant. Something like that. It's somewhat like a reference letter, from your previous landlord that tells them that you pay on time, and all of that. Sometimes they just want you to provide maybe a bank statement to show that you've actually paid for your rent on time and something and all that. Depends on what they ask for, but you would sometimes be required to bring that as well. You would also need to provide them with your credit worthiness statement, which is called the chauffeur statement. It tells them that you are credit worthy. This country, nothing. See, everything, the rigorous process is just something else. So you need to provide all of these documents to the landlord. Now, like I told you, the competition is fierce. So generally, the highest earner would most likely stand a better chance to get the apartment. So if somebody is earning, say, for example, €100, and another person is earning 150, usually it means that the person can generally pay for these apartments more comfortably than the person who is earning 100. So that's just an example to explain the point for that. Doesn't mean that because you're not making as much as the other people that you won't get the apartment. No, I'm just saying that generally that's what happens. Now, once both parties have agreed upon the apartment and they've said, okay, we're going with this and all, they're going to send you a contract for the apartment. You can see um, make payments, you sign, you get the keys for the apartment, and you can move in. Now let's talk about the rent itself. In Germany, there are two types of rent. It's the kalt meter, that's cold rent, and the warm meter, which is the warm rent. So cold rent is just the basic rent without heating and all that, while the warm rent includes everything, heating, sometimes they include electricity as well. In most apartments, electricity is not included in the warm rent, but in student apartments, generally, the electricity is included in the warm rent. So look carefully at what is stated in the house listing to be sure that, okay, the warm rent is this and the cold rent is this. You might see that cold rent is, for example, let's say cold rent is 500 euros, and then the warm rent is 650 something euros, and all of that. So look at it carefully so you don't think you're paying a certain amount of money and turns you're going to pay something else. Then, like I said, only in very few apartments will you see that the electricity bill is included. Most often than not, you're going to pay for the electricity bill separately. Now, beyond the rent that you're paying, you're going to be paying for what is called a caution. That's a caution fee that the landlord is going to be keeping in trust, that you don't ruin his apartment before you move. So now when you're moving out, that caution fee is going to be given back to you. Now, usually that caution is 2 to 3 months of your rent. You get the money back when you're moving out, so long as you don't ruin anything. If you don't break anything, you don't spoil anything, you move out of the apartment is clean, you've kept all the rules and everything, your money will be given back to you. But if anything needs to be maintained, anything needs to be repaired because of your use, then they're going to deduct that money from the money that you have given to them, and then they'll give you the balance. Now, the cost of rent vary from city to city. So, for example, in an expensive city like Stuttgart or Munich, the average rent per square meter is about 12 euros per square meters. But in other cheaper cities, you can find rent around 9 euro per square meters. It doesn't mean that you can't find less or more expensive, but I'm just saying this is the average cost of rent per square meter. In Germany, everyone knows how many square meters they're living in, because everything is measured in square meters when you are talking about your rent and all of that, so that you can have a rough idea. Is this expensive? Is this cheap? Is this reasonable? And all of that. Now, this cost, of course, will depend on the location, the specific location within the city, how close it is to the city center, of course, the things that are in the available, the amenities that you have. So, for example, an apartment with a balcony, which would be generally much more desirable, would be, of course, much more expensive than one without a balcony. Things that are some tiny little bitty things like that. And of course, it makes sense that the closer you are to the city center, the more expensive the apartment would be generally. Doesn't mean you won't find reasonably priced apartments closer to the city center. It just means that the closer you are, generally, the more expensive it will be. Now, you're also going to be paying a radio and TV bill. Everybody pays it is law. You can't run away from it. Now, you can pay for this annually or monthly, yearly, 6 months, however it is that you choose to pay for it. It's really up to you how you intend to pay for that. Now, I think it's about 12 euro or so. I can't remember exactly how much it is right now, but it's not a crazy amount, even though I don't understand why we are paying this, because you pay for this whether you're using the service or not. It's compulsory. You have to pay for it. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous, but what can we do? You have to pay for this. However, this radio and TV bill is paid per household, so it's not per person. If you are 2 in the household, it's just one payment for that household. So if you're living in a shared apartment, for example, everyone in the apartment is going to put together money for that radio and TV bill. It won't be one person paying per household. Or if you're a couple, and all of that, it won't be two. It won't be twice. It's just one service per the household. So let's talk about the rental contract. Now, your rental contract will contain everything that is expected, everything concerning the apartment, everything that is expected of who, every single detail will be in that contract. It will also include different things like permissions for pets or not, how often you should air the apartment, for example. It will contain how you should leave the apartment when you are leaving. So, for example, they'll tell you to paint the house in a neutral color like white when you're moving out. because if you don't, it means they have to paint it, and then they will remove the money from the money that you have with them. You have to leave the apartment clean when you're moving out, things like that. All these general specific details, who is responsible for what, if this happens, who does it, if that happens, who does it, if this level of work needs to be done in the house, who fixes it, and all of that. So it's very important that you go through your rental contract carefully. Be sure that you have understood everything that's in the contract before you sign it, before you agree to anything, before you go and take on debt that you don't absolutely need to. So go through your contract, be sure that you understand everything perfectly before you sign it, and make sure that you are keeping to what it is that is contained in that contract. Now, aside from the rental contract, your landlord also has to provide a document to you which is called the Wohnungsgeberbestätigung. Long word. But it has to give it to you because that's the document you've been needing at the Bürgeramt to register your apartment. Previously, you could register your apartment with just your housing contract, but now you can't do that anymore. You have to bring that confirmation from your landlord. It's called Wohnungsgeberbestätigung from your landlord, so that you can use it to register your apartment. Your landlord is required to give it to you by law, but in case you forget, this can happen, ask for it as well because you'll be needing it. Now, like you already know, in my previous video, I talked about moving and registering an apartment and all of that. If you're moving to a new apartment, you have to register every time. Even if you're in the same city, if you're moving to a different apartment, you have to register every single time. Register the new apartment, because that's the way the government can keep track of you, can send you documents, everything is up to date by that. And you have 2 weeks to do that once you move into your new apartment. Now, I've already made a video on registering your apartment, so if you'd like to see that video, I have the link in the description box, and I'll also put it somewhere up here. I don't know which way which way it's going to be, but yeah, you can access that there. Now, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you haven't given this video a thumbs up, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell so you're notified when a new video drops, and it helps me. It's a support to me, for all the work I put into this channel, and it tells YouTube that you love the video and it can show more people as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now, back to the houses. While German houses generally are good, are comfortable, are nicely designed and all, sometimes you can find some houses that can just be ridiculous. So guys, I would say you take out your time, look through the apartment carefully. If you're not so much in a hurry, if you're not really desperate to move out immediately, take out time to check out every single thing in the apartment. When you go for the apartment viewing, don't just walk around and just look at superficial things. Look at every single thing. Check the sockets, look at the switches, look at the bathroom fixtures. Make sure everything is working fine before you take the apartment, because a lot of times, sometimes when you take this apartment, especially if you're renting from a it's not an individual person. So let's say it's an agency, a real estate agency, and they're renting this apartment to you. Sometimes it's difficult to get these guys to come and fix any of all these things again. I live in an apartment where, man, to get anything done, it's annoying. It's really annoying. So most often than not, you have to fix these things yourself. So if you can, make sure that you have avoided every problem that you can avoid from the beginning. Take your time to look at everything that is available that the landlord is providing, and be sure that you are receiving everything as is agreed upon. Do you understand? Look at your contract. Be sure that you are keeping to your contract, and all that. Now, I hope that this video has been helpful if you're looking for an apartment. Like I said, finding an apartment in Germany is not a day's work. It's very difficult. But don't be discouraged. Just keep searching. I'm sure you'll find your dream apartment when you find it. Until I see you next time, do have a fantastic week, guys. Bye.